mind, I said, now a surgeon doesn't operate on himself. Now let me not try to chaplain myself, because then I'm going to mess myself up. So I need to find somebody to talk to. And then when I wanted to do that, I wanted to find a person of color. And the reason why that was important to me was because I didn't want to edit how I felt. I didn't want to feel uncomfortable or talk about things that the person really couldn't relate to on a cultural level, and I would have to sit up there and kind of backtrack, explain, go through this whole myriad and gyrations. See, I didn't want just theory. I didn't want just textbook theory, how to get over my ground. I wanted real interaction that was relatable, right? And so even though grief universal might be fine, and that is true. It's grief is universal, but also grief from a cultural context is totally different, because there might be things in my family that we do around death that somebody who is of non-African American wouldn't be able to relate to, right? And so I didn't want to feel like I had to be edited. So what I did is I created a general page of the color of grief, where anybody can join in. We can talk about a universal, but on my Facebook page, if you go to the color of grief, you go to Facebook, you will actually have we have a closed support group that specifically deals with the cultural context of grief from people of color, from the African American community, brown people, indigenous people, whatever. So we deal with issues that are not only death on the level of just losing someone, but or grief on the losing someone, but we also deal with grief on how grief shows up economically, socially, all different areas, trauma, all those type of things. So we're talking about all of that stuff in context culturally, because like they say in the 12-step fellowship program, right? It is best that one addict help another addict, because it's very therapeutic, because they both have the universal experience of drug use, right? And so they can relate, right? And they know what that's like, right? And so, and we, and I always use this African proverb, which I'm pretty sure you heard. It says, well, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, my question was always back to that was, if it takes a village to raise a child, doesn't it take that same village to heal one? So I got to go back to connecting to my grassroots, right, of who I am, so I can get my healing on, right? And so I can kind of move through the process and not have to feel as though I can't show up authentically, transparent, all of that stuff. And I have to go through this editing process, and I didn't want to do that. So I created space around that, and that came from the grief of me grieving my mom, right? And so hopefully it's been helpful to folks. I'm hoping that the color of grief has shown up in a dynamic way that's able to reach out even across cultural contexts or whatever, but just in general, I'm hoping that things like this, when I hold space for people to share their story, what they're doing around grief, all of that type of stuff, I'm hoping and praying that somebody's hearing, somebody's listening, and even if it helped one person, I'm happy about that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and thank you, Tyra, for joining. Thank you so much. No, thank you very much. I wanted to get you on here. I'm so happy that you were able to join. I'm so sorry that we weren't able to see your sister, even though we heard your sister.
I know.
But that's okay. We'll get her on in another time, but I really appreciate your time. You take care. Let's see what time we're looking at now. We got about 10 minutes, so I'm going to give people a chance to chime in. So sit tight and join in the conversation, and then we're going to end in about 10 minutes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right, so that's griefprobatejourney.com. You can check Tyra and her sister out in their blog and get some great information. Thank you, Tyra. Okay.